Hey guys, welcome to Money Talk Friday, where this week's topic is a little bit of change of pace. It's where I learned about wealth. So pretty interesting topic. I definitely recommend you go checking out the website, evenstevenmoney.com, and I wrote a post which kind of goes together with this one, which is, are my friends' parents rich? I ended up profiling one of my good friends, Stephen Pfeiffer, which you should check out, of course, on my YouTube channel. If you're already there, check out the videos. It's going to really open up about really thinking about wealth in a different way and really where you came from and where you learned about wealth. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, where I learned about wealth. Now, I want to give the introductions. I want to give you the right things, right? So letting everyone know who I am. My name is Steven, aka Even Steven Money. After paying off over $100,000 in personal debt, my wife and I found our version of financial freedom. It led me to where I am today. I launched my own money coach business where I help clients to pay off debt faster, just like I did, save more money than they ever have before, again, just like I did. Also, they can live a better life today, and that's something that I am working on every single day. And of course, retiring comfortable, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. But I'm here really to help you guys out and to, share my story. And this time we're going to go, again, a little bit different. We're going to share really just some thoughts. I usually put together a little bit more of a detailed kind of step-by-step what I want to talk about. And today it's going to be a little more fresh. It's going to be what I'm thinking about at the time. I thought about this while I was walking. I thought about this a couple times today. And really it was, where did I learn about money? Where did I learn, not even about money, where did I learn about wealth? So I started to think about starting with my childhood and my parents and growing up. So kind of probably, I would say, I'll sum it up with 0 through 18, right? And my family, just, really being honest, there wasn't anyone that I had as a mentor or as someone who said, hey, this is how you invest, or this is how you earn wealth. This is why I'm doing so well. Now, I had members of my family who had, to me, that were doing well. So they had stable jobs. I saw them have, a house or a nice house, cars that worked. And, I'll be really honest, that wasn't how I saw all of my childhood. And I'm not saying that we were poor. I don't really believe that we were poor, but we had cars that were $200. We had, we had cars that didn't always work. We went through as a family, and from what I saw, we had ups and downs financially, and I saw them. And I'm not going to get really specific into that. It's not my place to tell, my parents' story. But in terms of what I saw, yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to know that, a car that was sitting on your driveway that didn't work, that was, probably a $200 car. Or, I remember we had this, again, I'm using cars as an example, but we had this old car and it had this huge motor. It just roared, right? But the car was, I think, like a $200 or $400 car, and that was kind of like the get to work car. And if you look at that, that's not where you're going to find, wealth. That's not where you're going to find investing, etc. I think the only real examples that I had or that I remember were just in passing. We had a family member who was, and I'm really not that familiar with her. I believe it was my great aunt. So it was my great aunt, Noni, who apparently had wealth. Like, I have no idea how it happened. And I'm not even sure if it was wealth. She had more money than we did, right? And that was it. That's all I really knew. I mean, like, the big part of, I think, me knowing that was she was I say a part of the LGBTQ, but again, I didn't know her. I think I might have met her twice, maybe. We had another, and now this would have been more of a family friend. And this money apparently was, from what we knew or from what I knew growing up, it was inherited. And again, I didn't really see the wealth other than, and then knowing possibly that it was inherited from a family member. Again, they had a nice house. Sure, they had a pool. Uh, the car, I mean, they had an okay car, and I think they did have a classic car possibly, but they still worked. They still every day. So really, from 0 to 18, I don't remember having anyone teach me about wealth. I didn't learn about it. I didn't really have much of a clue. I mean, me personally, I wanted to, I wanted to be in the NBA. I wanted to go to college. That's the wealth that I saw. And probably anyone who goes into sports, it's probably what they see and what they end up talking about. So wealth, I was not learned. I didn't see it from 0 to 18. And again, I'll go into, my friends and their parents, and it was the same thing. I came from a really small town, and Pfeiffer and I talked about it, and check that out, of course, on the YouTube channel at Even Steven Money, or even this week's blog post. You'll see that on there. But we didn't have anyone that we knew that had money. Not that I can think of. And maybe they did it. Maybe there was a stealth portion of it. I can think of different people that maybe they were a small business owner that might have had more money than I really understood, but I didn't get to share that with them. Meaning, like, they weren't my mentor. I didn't learn anything from them. I just thought maybe it's a possibility that they had more money than, probably your average person, but I never really saw it and learned from it. Most of them were, there was two-income families, a decent house in a very small, very small town with, I'll say, in my understanding, not a ton of money or wealth. So I didn't know that. But again, there's probably some outliers there that I missed out on and that I didn't find about, learning about wealth and mentoring. And I don't think that was my main focus either. Now, interesting enough, and this is where you should start listening really intently. This is where I learned about wealth. So mark this down. I'm going to write this down, 8-minute mark. That's where I learned about wealth. And it really started with my sister, interestingly enough. And so my sister was nice enough I got to go visit her during the summer, and I went to like basketball camps and what have you. And I saw a glimpse into money. And it wasn't really, I wouldn't say her, as much as, yeah, in some ways it was, but it was like the start of it. So I saw a nicer area. I saw a couple nicer, houses or what have you. So this was in the North Shore, like far up North Shore of Chicago. But yeah, so I saw this basketball facility, which was actually a gym. It was huge. It was amazing. And, you started to see more BMWs outside and more Mercedes Benz. And I started to realize that this was a little bit more into people having money. And now, whether they were in debt, all of that stuff, that I didn't know at that point, but I did see nicer things, right? I saw nicer houses. I saw nicer cars. I saw a little fancier restaurants. I did see all of that. And then what actually happened was when I was in college, so my sophomore year, I actually moved in with my sister for the summer, and I was looking for work, and I needed to make things happen. I needed to hustle. That was when I was really working hard to, really just bring money in. And I had 3 jobs. I had a job at Home Depot. I had a job at Abercrombie and Fitch. And my third job, which ended up really taking over for the other ones, was at a very nice golf course, a private golf course in, I believe, Libertyville, Gurnee area. And that's where I really learned about wealth. And so it's a private golf course. Let me give you a little background on that. It's a private golf course. At the time, and to my understanding, it's always like a rumor mill. I don't think there was an official contract for it, but it was $85,000 to join. So that's salary for most people, and sometimes more than a salary. Maybe that's 2 years salary. That's probably the average annual income. Almost double that as an example. So I knew money had to be had, and then that didn't even go on top of the monthly dues in terms of, I'm sure there was you had to spend so much golfing or eating or buying clubs, or I didn't really know, right? And that's where I started to learn, obviously that's a big expense, so people had money, and it was pretty easy to recognize it as you started walking through the steps. And I ended up working there every summer throughout college. So I saw BMWs, I saw Mercedes, I saw McLarens, I saw Aston Martins. So yeah, I saw vehicles as an example that pretty commonly were $50,000, no questions asked. And I saw, money exchanging hands. I was given, and this has never happened to me before, I was used to getting, say, $6 an hour working at wherever, golf shop, construction job, whatever it was growing up throughout that time. And in this case, I was being handed cash money from the golf course or from that member, and then potentially a tip as well. And so it was very common once I kind of started getting into it to make $100 or more in cash for that day. That was something I wasn't used to. So imagine working every single day. Let's say you work 7 days a week and you walk away with $700 to $1,000 as a 19-year-old kid. And that's a lot of money. It was definitely a lot of money to me. So I knew that wealth was there. I knew that something was happening, that you don't just hand that money out unless you have more of it. And as I worked throughout time, I began to meet and talk with different individuals at the golf course. And even just with, as a caddy, you find out who worked there, who you work with, and then you hear different stories. And it started to go into individuals. So yes, at this golf course, yes, there is Michael Jordan. I know how he makes his money. Yes, Brian Urlacher, the middle linebacker of the Chicago Bears. I believe he's now in the Hall of Fame. Yes, he was a member. Those are easy. I get that. That's how they made their money. But the ones that were interesting and I learned more about and from so there was doctors, right? There was a doctors. There was lawyers. So, okay, you see, those are high income positions, doctors, lawyers. So what else, right? And then you start to hear a little bit more of business owners. Okay, and then you don't really know specifically, but then you'll hear it's not like it's a business owner, but maybe it's a CEO. So now they're the CEO of a company that you drive by on your way to work. And you're starting to think wow, this guy either started it or he had his hand in it. And that's where I started to see the wealth. I saw financial advisors. One of actually my internships that I got was from being on that golf course, from learning from those individuals. We had a guest outing. I was talking with an individual, a financial advisor from Merrill Lynch. And I was very interested in financial advising at that point in time and really thought it was something I was probably going to get into. And we were talking, and a great guy, really nice guy. And he ended up essentially offering me or giving me the opportunity to intern at Merrill Lynch. I think it was a little unofficial at that time. I don't think it was, you apply for an internship. So I really got that position because of the golf course and because of just me being a talkative individual and wanting to learn more. And big shout out to Mark, or is it Mark Silver Tongue Thorndike? I think is what they call. But yeah, Mark is a great guy. I really appreciate everything that he gave me the opportunity for, and that's one aspect, that's one avenue into what I saw. So I didn't see a ton at Merrill Lynch in terms of having $1 million clients and etc. I was doing a lot of the back office stuff and really just learning about it. I was only there, I believe, one day a week because I still needed to make money for college. I would have loved to do it 5 days a week, but I would have had more student loan debt than I did back then. But yeah, I remember, here's a really good example, and I won't use dollar figures specifically, but I saw Mark asked me to go pick up something from the printer, and it was his stock portfolio, and it had the values and how much he had in individual stocks, or his portfolio. And maybe there was more, but this is what he had under his investments. And that was the most money I had ever seen in any account in my life, as an example. So there was another avenue to understanding wealth, and where I'm learning, like, okay, this guy is a financial advisor. He's helping people with their money. He's, taking, as they say, he's taking that little breadcrumb from the investment, and he's taking that money and really earning commissions, etc., helping people with their money. So a lot of the people that I saw, or I should say a few of the people that I ended up seeing, well, yeah, they were big financial advisors. And another guy, same thing, financial advisor, but he only dealt with, I believe it was like $5 million plus. It might even have been more. I'd have to look him up. But yeah, so I saw a lot of that. So I saw a direct avenue to where wealth was being built. I saw these high salary positions. I saw CEOs. I saw doctors, lawyers, all of these things. And that's where I started to, maybe I'm not even sure if it was learn as much as realize where this was coming from, where their wealth was coming from, where it started at least. And it was that, yeah, you needed a high salary of some sort. You needed money coming in that was large. And now maybe they were just using that as, as their wealth. Because I didn't learn, for example, from the doctor who I caddied for, from the LASIK eye surgeon that I caddied for. I don't know what he did with that money. I don't know if he invested in stocks or real estate, or a small business. I guess his own practice in some way he would have, but I didn't see that part of it. I would hear it overheard sometimes, casual talk. I remember the owner of the golf course's son would be talking about the houses that were, selling for $1 million or more, and talking about another example is just like the square footage of what he's doing with these real estate deals. So I did hear some of it, but it wasn't as specific as I invested in this, and this is how my wealth was created. So I knew, though, that it started with a high salary, a high income, some sort of high earnings. And I know that sounds really simple, like, oh yeah, of course. But I had to figure out a way to get there, is really what I realized. And here's some things that I didn't hear, though. So I saw those things. I never saw debt. I never heard or talked about debt. I never heard, hey, I have this $1 million house, but I owe 1.2 million or 800,000. I didn't hear any of that. I didn't hear anything about debt. I didn't hear anything about personal finance. I didn't hear about individual investments. But what I think the number one thing that I learned and that I took away was that you need that high salary, you need that high income. So in college, that was a little bit of my mindset. I envisioned from, I'll say 18 to 23, I envisioned myself as a financial advisor. I envisioned making, 100K plus. And I did, and then I had dreams, or I had goals that I wish I could go look them up. I still have them, actually, a little bit older, but I had visions of, owning extra real estate, of becoming a member at a golf course, just like that one probably. And I think I had $1 million net worth or $1 million portfolio on there. But yeah, so I started looking into those things. And my cousin, through marriage, all that good stuff, but he worked for Edward Jones, so I got to see a little bit into that. I got to ask him some questions and what have you. Now, I didn't go in that direction. I decided to actually go in a direction that involved more around banking. And I don't know where exactly I intended to go, but I knew I felt comfortable with banking. And I did meet some bank executives, and I think that might have had to do some with it as well. I did see an avenue that you could grow, whether you maybe not a branch manager that makes the most money, but I did see, investment bankers. I did see CEOs. I did see vice presidents that made a good amount of money based on, of course, them belonging to the golf course. And so that's the avenue that I went out of college. And it was a slow track, and I never, or I haven't, I didn't get to that, $100,000 mark. So I never really reached that high salary. And that is something that I think probably, so from 18 to 23, right? I'm in college from 23 to, I'll say 30 even. I think I'm realizing and working my way up, trying to get that larger salary and paying off those big debts. And that's when, maybe even just a couple years before that, 28 to where I am now, I'm 37, I'm doing the math. I realized that yes, a salary is needed, but for me, like how I would teach someone wealth is, yeah, it would be slow and steady. It wouldn't be the high salary. It would be whatever you're in. It would be to focus on increasing that at whatever you're doing. So for me, it was banking. So I worked on increasing my income from, 30,000 to 40 to 60, right? But I didn't stop there. So it would be increasing your income in other areas. So whether it be a side hustle, whether it be at your same, job, always working to get harder, working to advance, working harder to advance. That's what I looked at. That's what I would teach someone to obtain wealth. It would be a slow and steady process. While you're doing that, making sure that your debt is paid off or zero, so making that a main focus. And then from there, I would say it's taking that money after really your debt's paid off and piling it into safe investments that grow over time. And safe is a relative word, but it's going to be in your stock market, it's going to be in your real estate, it's going to be in your small business. And then where did I learn all this from, right? Well, it's essentially from individuals that I met on the internet is really what it comes down to. And, you gotta, go through the weeds to figure out what you believe and what you don't believe. But, for me, paying off debt started with Dave Ramsey, right? Well, you find out that Dave Ramsey, yeah, right, he got rid of his debt. He was a real estate guy. Well, that's what he still does. He pops that money back into real estate. Well, not only does he put that money back into real estate, he also has a small business that he's putting money back into where he's earning money from that. So now there's two really big ones. Now he might have this $1 million portfolio, $10 million portfolio in investments and stocks, but he's really hitting all three of them. And so I start to learn, I start to see that a little bit. And then I start to, maybe I don't follow Dave Ramsey as my, as my guy. And then I see a couple other areas and I realize that, yeah, it's essentially, it comes back to those three areas being some of the biggest. And that's investing, which I didn't learn from anyone, although I'd had a special interest. Real estate, I did get a sneak preview into real estate with my parents. I'll have to share that story one day. I don't know too much about it. It's a very small story, actually. And then small business. And again, I actually did see that a little bit with my parents. Now, two of those three they, to my knowledge, they didn't become millionaires. They didn't become wealthy. So, definitely ups and downs, ups, downs. So it becomes pretty interesting to see really, how you learn about wealth and where it comes from. So that's where I am today. I really think that's how I learned about wealth, and I think I'm growing today too, figuring it all out. I do think those are the staples. I don't think there's a quote unquote get rich. You have to have some sort of income. Somebody has to give you money, right? Most people aren't inheriting wealth. If they do, good for them, but not to my knowledge. And that's the people that I know. And they take that money and they put it in things that are going to grow over time. And it all comes down to having your money work for you, or having someone essentially give you more money over time. And I say that as really a job, right? So it could be your hedge fund manager. Now that's going to be a job that is very lucrative because you're going in such large areas. But a lawyer, same thing. If you charge $400 an hour and you have reoccurring practice, that's money that someone's giving to you for your work. But now what do you do with that money? Because that process can't always repeat, and it's not going to grow as big as you want it to. You're only one person. Now you have to grow it in some other aspect. I guess those are the things that I think about when I think about where I learned about wealth and where I am today. And I think, again, I'm always learning, and I'm realizing for me what's important about wealth and how I learned about it. And I'm just going to close with one last thing, and it's about a question that someone asked me, and it's about the kids, right? So someone asked me, well, how would I introduce my kids to wealth? And I don't have kids, and I started going into a bunch of different directions, and then I realized that really the answer, and they agreed as well, and it comes down to really you leading by example and showing them. So if you're showing that you're spending money crazily on whatever, big fancy cars or what have you, that's what they're going to see. If you see someone struggling with money, that's what they're going to see. So it really starts with you and leading by example. So I would start there. But then also the next step is, even if you're not doing it so well, it's starting to show them, really the three things, right? And that's saving, spending, and giving. So, give them some money, or have them earn, really not give them some money, have them earn, $10 a week, and then say, okay, you're a money manager. You're in charge of that $10. What are you going to do with it? If they're like, I want video games, I want gummy bears, I would want gummy bears. But, you're like, okay, well, you can't spend $10 on it, because then if you spend all that money, you can't get anything else. Have that conversation, start thinking about it. That $10, maybe they spend $7 on gummy bears, and then they save $2. Maybe they save $2, and then maybe you guys go to church. Maybe there's someone in need that you thought could help, and they take that dollar and they give that to the church, or they give that to a friend who maybe thought that they needed that money, as an example. So just want to really take that to the next step. Maybe I didn't learn everything about wealth, about money, but how can you help others or help your own children? And that's, I think, first leading by example, and then really giving them a little bit of a direct path as a good start to being money managers. Wealth will come over time. Just keep following those good principles. But all right, guys, this is Steven, aka Even Steven Money Talk Friday. Thank you guys for joining. I will catch you next time on evenstevenmoney.com and everywhere on social media.